Labour Weekly!
Labour Weekly!
Labour Weekly! Labour Weekly!
Well, in the old days, the Students' Union was very much a club. The reading room was one of the nicest clubby rooms. This is all leather chairs, lots of newspapers, like the Morning Post, which have long since died away. It's just a matter of ringing a bell and somebody'd come up and take an order for coffee or tea or China tea and muffins, this sort of thing. This went on, most of the day. They were given every attention that you would be in a gentleman's club anywhere in the town. Immediately before the war, it was very easy to know the surname of practically every person that you saw during the course of a morning. It could amount to about 300 or 400 people, and you could say good morning, Mr. So-and-so, quite easily. And today, of course, well, if I know 150 people at all, this is about the top number.
Labour Weekly!
Labour Weekly! Buy your Labour Weekly!
Women weren't allowed into the Old Men's Union at all, apart from special functions, like the social occasions, dancing and so on. Right up to the very end of going out of that building, women were not allowed to walk further than the inquiry desk, otherwise they were booed out of the place.
What letters are there?
Well, now, do you want your engagements for today?
Oh, please, yes.
Yes, well, in the morning there's a visit of the Russian students, and at 2:15 the University Union Relations Committee meeting, at 5 a Socials Committee meeting, 7:30 the local president's meeting.
Where's the local president's meeting?
In the guest room, yes.
Good. The thinking that I did and the views that I've got came from home. We lived absolutely in the depths of the country. We had an enormous garden. There was a large field next to the house, a large back garden. I didn't feel any restrictions on time or day or time of the year or anything like this at all. As far as this degree ceremony goes, I can't do it because I've got to go to a Sheffield informal president's meeting. I wonder if you could ask Margaret if she could carry the mace for me. It's very difficult to view one's father as a priest because he's one's father as well, and there's a slight conflict of roles. Father was very, very important to me. He doesn't mind preaching unorthodox sermons. He says what he thinks to people who other people might defer to. It's very often unpopular, but I think a man who has no enemies is worthless. Will Council come to order, please? Move on to officers' reports. Hand the gavel over to Mr. Worsley. First thing I have to report is that I was visited by a Rhodesian student the other day. He spoke to me of 30 Rhodesian students who, because of the political situation in Rhodesia, have had to flee to Zambia. At the moment, they're hanging around in Zambia, and this government, the government of Great Britain, has offered to pay their education for 3 years and to find them places in this country if they can be got over here. Now, it costs £100 per student. Well, compared to certain people, one always seemed to have a lot of books around and newspapers and things like this. One was in this nice position of being able to mix with people of all classes. Father had contact with people who were intellectuals as well, who happened to be living in the parish. Come, you masters of war, you that build all the guns, you that build the deck planes, you that build the big bombs, you that hide behind walls, you that hide behind desks. I just want you to know I can see through your masks. You that never done nothing but build to destroy.
A lift wanted for Derby and Nottingham. A lift for Derby and Nottingham.
Calling all members. Calling all members. There will be a teach-in at 12:45 today in the main debating hall. The subject is class structure in modern Britain. Calling all members. There will be a teach-in at 12:45 today in the main debating hall. The subject is class structure in modern Britain.
Sit the Conservative MP there.
Yes, nor Miss Campbell, that's fine.
Sit the Liberal MP there.
Winstanley?
The Unionist.
That's Len Sharp.
The Labour MP.
Frank Alone.
There.
That's fine.
Mr. Frank Alone, please unafraid our Union President.
I'm afraid there's a lot more photogenic than the rest of us.
Would you like to come Henry?
Good debate yesterday. It wasn't a good debate, no. It was lively. But then there are seldom any good debates in the House of Commons.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third Manchester University Union teach-in. The title of today's teach-in is The Class Structure in Modern Britain. Mr. Kaczynski.
I only have a very brief point to make about Mr. Barr's speech. He seemed to be advocating a class structure based on the meritocracy. He told us about the production of this meritocracy, that people were selected on ability, clever boys from humble homes. 45% of boys at Oxbridge come from public schools, clever boys from humble homes. 81% of those in the higher civil service come from Oxbridge. 95% of those are from public schools. These are clever boys from humble homes.
I was born in Whitechapel Hospital, which says something for background if you like, and I've always lived above Spitalfields Market. Spitalfields is in Stepney, and Stepney speaks for itself again. Well, my father's a Polish immigrant Jew. His background would be Jewish ghetto background in Poland, who came over during the last war, obviously escaping from the persecution.
Poland was about stepmother to me. She want a lot, but she don't give nothing back. I don't feel absolutely nothing in Poland. No, I can only remember bad things. What I can only remember is pogroms and unemployment and starvation.
He found himself at the bottom of the social pack, and he thought everyone ought to be equal and everyone ought to have a fair chance, and he wasn't getting it. Therefore he became a socialist. Many of these ideas have been impregnated onto my consciousness, and you know, I feel the same way, that everyone should have a chance.
I appreciate the Butler Education Act, whereby these boys from humble homes could get a good education and get to university. Well, I submit to this House that any boy who comes from a humble home with no hot water, no bath, 2 rooms and 8 other kids in it didn't get to university because of the Butler Education Act. He got there because of a ruddy miracle.
Come on in there. The others aren't around. Come in this room first.
Thanks. Oh, it's a mess, though.
Alright, so it needs a bit of cleaning out. You know, not the end of the world, is it?
How much did you pay for this?
Only £500.
Where did you get 500 quid from?
I bought it from the old men. It's between 3 of us. Mine's only 160
Where's the fireplace?
That's John's. This is John's room. He's taken down the picture out as well, and he's wrecked the place more or less, and he's going to do it up eventually.
Yeah, it looks like it.
I'll have a look in the other room.
nice, this room. What you lived in?
Well, John's doing it this room.
Oh.
And it's quite clean and smart. And Pete's upstairs.
How long are you going to live here?
I don't know, we'll be here 3 or 4 years, getting degrees and other things that you come to university for.
Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to take up the point that Dr. Winstanley made about increasing mobility and changing attitudes. Now, I haven't got the complete answer to this, and I don't think there is one, but I think the most important factor in regard to this is increasing educational opportunity, of giving everybody the chance, through spending more money, building more schools, more universities, of getting where we are. And remember, only about 5% of us do get here, which isn't very much of a tidal wave as regards meritocracy. Well, I've always lived on a council estate all of my life, and although I had a very happy home, and luckily my parents were interested in education and saw that it would be good for me to get one, I'm glad that I've managed to get away from it. Well, being working class is it's a way of thinking. Most parents don't know any better. They left work at 16 and went into a trade. And so the kids do the same. I mean, they don't know any better. And I'm afraid once you've left school at 16 and got out of the educational system, you don't stand any chance in this country. Whenever my parents and relatives have get-togethers or reunions, the conversation usually drifts around to the Depression or the war. This is when they counted for something. I think the great days of the working class are over, and I think that these are all the only things they've got to look back on. If I thought I'd have to bring my kids up in an estate like this, I'd emigrate tomorrow. Education is a right, and what you do with your life after that is a right. I know that I can get a lot more, I think, out of life than my parents have done. Probably with less effort. I haven't the hardship and the background to fight. First reaction was that I was completely free to live as I wanted to. The place has got all the amenities of a 5-star hotel. Everything's laid on for you to use.
You say you want to go to America, right?
Yeah?
Now, why?
Because it's a great place. Because I went there and I enjoyed it. It's exciting, it's richer. There's more there for me than there is here.
But look, you've sort of spent your time here, at the country's expense. Don't you feel any obligation to stay, you know, to put something back?
If the country hadn't wanted to pay for my education, they wouldn't have done. You're not telling me that you can stay. We will pay for your education, but you must spend the rest of your life in this country. You would allow me the freedom to go, won't you?
Yeah, but don't you feel any sort of moral responsibility about staying?
I don't think I owe anything because I've been paid for an education. The only thing I owe things to are individuals who've helped me. And what have I got if I stay here? I mean,
well, you tell me. I don't do your subject.
Not much at all. In fact, from what I've been told, nothing at all. You know, my degree's worth nothing.
You've been to the appointments board.
Yeah, in so many words, this is what they told me. Whereas I know if I go there, I have got plenty of opportunity to do well for myself.
Mr. Clark.
Is this coming over? Frank has already put to you the chances of kids in Salford getting to Oxbridge, the incidence of illness amongst the lower classes, these kind of things, the immense disparities that still exist between the classes in this country. If anyone is under the illusion that we live in a meritocratic or a classless society, they are definitely suffering under one of the greatest public relations illusions that they ever suffered under.
I think I've very consciously reacted against my background. A middle-class housewife's dream, I suppose. It's lots of rather pretty little semi-detached boxes, all mock Tudor and pretty front gardens.
The values are concerned, I fear, mainly with money, definitely with social standing, that you are either with us or not.
No beers. No beers. No beers. 5 hearts. 3 clubs. Another gin.
Very good.
Hello, Hugh. How are you?
Where did you get to? Trinidad and Tobago? Until we can overthrow this system, then we shall always have a class struggle that will inevitably get worse and worse, until in the end it will have to be overthrown. Thank you, Madam Chairman. When you come up to Manchester, you encounter sights that you'd sort of expected but you never realised. The contrast is quite astounding. If you're not idealistic, then what is left only the sort of the grey morass of politics at present. You say, well, why can't these people have the same situation? Why can't they have the same opportunities and facilities as I've always had? And you obviously react and try and change it. The people wandering about in the streets in 5 bobs worth of clothing. You contrast this to someone who's probably spent 25 guineas on a sheepskin jacket at home.
They marry, they have children. Their children are fed through the sort of machine. They go into the city, into the insurance, the banking, the stock exchange and the rest of it. And this is it. This is the end of the whole idea. The whole of people's social life is geared to the rugby club or something equivalent of it, to the yacht club, to the golf club. I find personally this system is something that frightens me.
Ring, 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 ring out the bell. Ring, ring, ring out the bell. Ring, ring, ring out the bell. I play on my Spanish guitar.
Stand-off half, we have a banker. At scrum half, we have another accountant. The full-back is in insurance at Lloyd's.
Peggy O'Neill had a bike with one wheel.
On one particular occasion, they won the Watney's World Drinking Cup on a knockout competition.
The spokes were all buckled and bent.
To be quite honest with you, I have not studied Vietnam, don't intend to study Vietnam.
She may charge a tanner, she may charge a bob. Right.
We've got to, the main points we've got to get over are the murder that's being committed by the Americans in Vietnam in our name, the fact that we've got to get the working man involved, the people in the street. We've got to work on public opinion to try and change public opinion.
Bill, this leaflet you're going to do, 500 of.
Yeah.
That's for use in the union, is it?
Yeah. I'm going to get done on the Gazette in the union by tomorrow afternoon, lunchtime.
Yeah, okay. You'll have it out. We'll distribute it tomorrow lunchtime.
Definitely.
What kind of politics will it have on it?
You know, what one can do, writing to your
Yeah,
LP, working through your, writing to your local newspaper, this sort of work.
If we do 500 quarter-size leaflets, that's 22 and 6. We can pay for that on a shilling a head whip round.
Okay.
Will you do that?
Yeah.
Britain has had a class structure over the years, and we all seem to accept that in one way or another it is changing.
When I went into the army, it was automatically assumed that I was officer material. I am the most militarily incompetent person on earth.
If you're living in a house where there's never any books, where you read the sketch in the morning and that's the lot, what kind of environment is this to bring children up in?
I find that in many ways social class is irrelevant in the present situation. If I speak in a tutorial, if I stand up in a debating hall and make a speech, they don't know my social background, but all they can see is some bloke who's standing up and making a speech and making some points and saying what he believes, and they've got to judge me on what I've said that's come with the welfare state, in that people are coming to university and no one knows what their background is.
My father's a gardener.
I went to private schools, one in Kenya and one in North Wales.
My father's a solicitor. I went to Liverpool College, public school.
My father's a labourer.
Class is a terrible thing, but it's something you have to accept. One of the things that you cannot do and should not do is to be over-conscious of the problem. I'm working class because people tell me I'm working class and I'm satisfied with it. One of the anomalies of the system is that 5 years ago, before the Gaming Act came into legality, my father was an off-the-licence bookmaker. It comes into legality in 1966 on his income tax form. He's now upper class. 5 years ago, he was a criminal. But this is injustice.
Further speakers from the floor.
We're fed up of outdated methods of examinations in the universities, in the civil service. We're fed up of the old-fashioned public school system. We're fed up of university policy being controlled by the government. We're fed up of things like this. We have got to, please, everybody, think.
We're going to plug this line, are we, about students being disillusioned, about being upset about their courses, about not being involved in exams?
Yes, I think we must, but we've got to put a really well-documented case in order to convince those members of staff who aren't convinced already.
What really frightens me about this country is the fact that we are becoming a conforming nation. We don't think. We've got no ideas.
That's a guy we met in the States who was standing on a corner selling ice cream or something. And we walked by all dressed up English-wise, and he thought we were the Beatles and screamed it out, you know, "Hey, look at the Beatles!" And it was great. Nice to be a star kind of thing. It's open. Oh. How do you get on?
Well, as usual, not very well.
Go and teach.
Yeah. What am I going to do? I don't want to teach, gosh. Well, anyway, I'm glad I'm not an economist.
Well, what have they got?
What was it? I think 8 economists got jobs using economics. 8.
I can do. I'm Professor Mills, and he's got the manager.
How do you do?
Finished department. Please.
I did it. Thank you.
This is something of a new venture for us in Staff Forum. Previous meetings have invited distinguished academics from all over the world to talk to us about one thing or another, so this is really a unique occasion. It's the first time we've invited students, so we hope you can tell us something about expectation and reality in student courses.
What are you going to do as a psychologist?
I don't know. Well, they've got here 3 psychologists got jobs as trainee psychologists in the hospital service. Well, that's clinical psychology. I'm not really interested in clinical psychology.
What we'd like to talk about is what we expect in a university now we're here, and what we don't in fact find.
Well, you read a lot nowadays about economics and everything. Well, we're doing economics, social science degrees. And Holloway says here that despite all the interest, only one higher degree economist was taken into the government service in '65. So there's all that chat and all that talk and all that encouragement to do economics, and then they only employ one of them in the end.
We went continually in a lecture theatre to ask students to come and bring any complaints, to intercept one in the corridor, come to one room any time they want to talk about anything, but they're much too frightened to do it by and large. This is where sometimes this much maligned sherry party, we go in for sherry rather than coffee, helps. Students, I find, are much more ready to approach me and ask questions that otherwise they might think almost impertinent when they've got a few glasses of sherry inside them. I find them most stimulating occasions.
I think that sherry parties at present, you just fill people up with sherry and talk away nicely, and talk a lot, and then do absolutely nothing about it. The student goes away with some sort of feeling that he's going to get something done. The staff know quite well that they've fobbed the answer off for another few terms. What we want is a formal machinery between where staff are represented and students are represented, where they can discuss various courses, various lecturers, put their points of view, and for the thing to be discussed between the students and the staff at a formal level.
Mr. Kaczynski, who raised the whole question in a powerful intervention earlier on, just after I arrived, about Oxbridge and those who go through from Oxbridge to the civil service. Of course, the truth of the matter is this. It's totally unfair to simply take Oxbridge, because Oxbridge intake today largely comes from the grammar schools and from the intelligent working class boys. And you can't... It's certainly true. Certainly true. Look at the statistics. Look at the statistics. Look at the statistics before you come and shout.
Well, if I went to a prep school, Eton, Oxford, Brigade of Guards, 3 company directorships, a backbench seat in the House, and then a seat in the Tory shadow cabinet, I would also think that class didn't matter.
My father made it abundantly clear that anything I made in my life had to be taken out of the system by grabbing an education. I've come from nothing. My father's come from even less, but he's managed to give me something. I feel I'm duty-bound to give my son, or his grandson, even more, and therefore I'm ambitious. How much use has university politics been to you so far, Dave?
You'll never convince anybody that you're going to be good at MP for them merely because you've been president of Manchester University Union. After all, most people think students are a load of yobbos anyway. One obviously good line is working through trade unions and getting yourself a trade union nomination. This is still far and away the easiest way to get on in Labour politics.
How did you get nominated for Leeds last time?
It was rather funny, really. All that I was really interested in was going before a local party committee and letting them ask me questions so that I could get experience of this side of it.
Are you looking for a seat?
Well, I'd like a seat, obviously, yeah. Well, you need to get to know somebody locally.
All the fridges, the cars, the washing machines that people talk about, and some people complain about because the working class have them and they think they oughtn't to, all these things, for many, many people, stand in houses which are 100 years old or more and are in a position of total degradation, which should have been pulled down years ago.
Everybody seems to believe this bit about being a millionaire, the American system, don't they? About anybody can make it. It's great.
Who did you meet who made it?
I met 2 or 3 people who were well off, you know, a couple of millionaires.
We know that the housing situation of this country won't be solved for years, decades to come. There will still be slums in 20 years' time, and people will still be saying what a scandal it is. And it's a terrible thing that we have to say that.
The road's out in the middle of nowhere, going right through mountains, you know, just cut half a mountain away. And there's this big 6-lane road going straight through. I know one of the first things that I heard when I came back here, struck me as funny, was talking about the Pennine motorway going across from Manchester to Sheffield. And there's this guy standing on top of the moors, and we're getting very excited about this marvellous feat of human imagination and technical achievement, you know, undreamed of before. And then I was just thinking, as he was saying this on the radio about the roads I'd seen over there and what they were actually doing and the new roads they were building, and it was so laughable.
I mean, what's the use? You go down Rusholme and you see things scrawled on the wall about Vietnam or Mosley. They can't even spell Vietnam.
People go to school, they take the 11+, they take their O-levels, they take their A-levels. If they can, they get into university or training college. They never stop to think, do we want to? They just do.
Manchester students say, Wilson, get up! Manchester students call on all the people of Manchester to support them in their demand. Manchester students say the napalm bombing must finish, the razor bombing must finish, the baby burning must finish, the war must finish.
We may laugh at it, we may say we don't want to become politicians, we may say we don't like politicians, but in the end, the social climate in which we live depends entirely upon what we do as politicians in the House.
Slow reformism might achieve its ends by about the year 2500, but I've only got 70 years to live and everybody else has. If you go to extremes, you might drag people further your way than you would if you were just a mild sort of radical.
I remember at school, there used to be a thing called the Royal Observer Corps, or an Officer Training Corps, and each field day they'd have a Commander General there, an old retired brigadier. In my year they were rehearsing for it was a riot, and they staged this peasant riot. You know, you had people dressed up as rioters throwing potatoes.
I sing out danger, I sing out warning, I sing out love between my brothers and my sisters all over this land.
We were all lined up with our guns, you know, and our mortars and hand grenades. Everybody's lying about dead, you know. And the brigadier comes up to us and he says, Well, lads, you've done a jolly good day's work, you know. A fine body of men.
Join this march. The British people must act to force the government to change its policy. Manchester students invite you to join them and show your disgust for the war. It's essential that the British people act. What have the British people got to do? They've got to act to stop this war. Join this march. Hey, hey, LBJ! How many kids did he kill today? Hey, hey, LBJ! How many kids did he kill today? Hey, hey, LBJ! How many kids did he kill today? Hey, hey, LBJ! How many kids did he kill today? Hands up, Vietnam! 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 Hands up, Vietnam!
I'd like to live here. I like a lot of the things we have. I like the touches of the welfare state and all the rest of it that we have. I think these are good movements forward. I'd like to try and change this country, obviously. I suspect, however, that I shall opt out. I don't think that for someone of my views there's really very much future in this country, and I have these ideals and I'm going to work for them. I refuse to compromise. I wouldn't become a middle management man, part of the ad mass race.
More water for you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
You're right. Unfortunately, there's no cause big enough in this country at the moment which are going to get people out on the streets fighting each other. I think it's just a good situation to be in. But if you like, go back to my father's background, he's had to go out on the street and fight physically with knives and razor blades and all sorts of other nasty things. I'd say I was essentially a practical man in most terms. I've got my idealism, which is at the back of my mind all the time, but I prefer to work on practicalities because I'd become very, very frustrated very quickly if I was banging my head against a brick wall by asking for something which no one could give me.
The idealist is needed, but I'm not self-sacrificing enough to be one myself. It's a very hopeless cause, I think. I would like to go to America for maybe the next 5 years or 10 years because the place interests me. I find it exciting, and I know that I could get a decent job and be well paid for doing that job. I have a much higher standard of living than I'd have here.
Looking back at the past depresses me. I'm more interested in the future. And this is probably what's wrong with this country, I think. Too many people still live in the past.
You have two choices. You can try and change the system or you can opt out of it. And I suspect that I should opt out. I want to teach in Tanzania for about 3 or 4 years, or somewhere in Africa, a developing country in Africa, because I've had so much myself, I'd like to give a lot of it back.
Didn't I treat you right now, baby? Didn't I? Didn't I do the best I could now, didn't I? So don't you leave me standing in the shadows of love. I'm getting ready for the heartache to come.
I feel desperately, yes, almost desperately, that life is very short indeed. One has only one life, and I hope that when I'm old, I shan't look back and regret lost opportunities. I'm not a great nationalist. I wouldn't mind living somewhere else. If I married someone from another country, I should be quite happy to go abroad and live there.
Gave you all the love I had, now didn't I? When you needed me, I was always there, and I wasn't I.
It's easy for me to believe in the future of this country because I'm only first generation. And if you like, my parents are both Polish. They both come from a totalitarian country. And they can see the blessings in this country, whereas most people who are born here or whose family have lived here for 5 or 6 generations only see the faults.
On behalf of the Union and all those who've attended this afternoon, I should like to thank the guest speakers very much indeed for coming here and putting their views on the class structure in modern Britain. Thank you.